In this exercise, I want you to build as many letters of the alphabet as you can with all of these basic shapes. These shapes over here will be used as backgrounds for your logo. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to double click here and then hit the right mouse button so that you come over here and type in your name. Do the same thing over here. Select that text and type in whatever period number you are. Then you're just going to start dragging over these characters. When you drag them, what I want you to do is hold the Option key down. Make sure that you have this selection tool, and then in order to duplicate this, I'm going to click on it one time. Then I'm going to hold the Option key down and drag it over here. So for instance, in order to make the letter A, I'm going to select this one. This is the lowercase a. I'm going to click on it, hold the Option key down, and drag it up here so that I get the letter A. If I want it to be the uppercase A, I'm going to click one of these. Again, hold the Option key down and drag it over here. Notice how the angle's probably not right. Here's where the Direct Selection tool comes in handy. I'm going to click the Direct Selection tool. I'm going to click and drag a rectangle around this one point. And then I'm going to move the point around like this. Now there's another tool that I haven't shown you yet. It's underneath the Rotate tool. Remember that all these little check marks here on the right hand side means that there's more tools underneath. So I'm going to click and hold this down, and I'm going to select the Reflect tool. Then I'm going to click back on the Selection tool so that it selects the whole thing. Click on the Reflection tool. And then this time I'm going to hold the Option key down and I'm going to click right on this point. Notice how when I hold the Option key down you get that little symbol next to it. This dialog box is going to come up. It may or may not have the preview on. Make sure to click the preview button so that you can see. I don't want it to reflect vertically, I want it to reflect, or excuse me, I don't want it to reflect horizontally, I want it to reflect vertically. Now instead of just reflecting it, I'm going to copy it at the same time. So now I have both points of the A. I'm going to go back to my Selection tool, hold the Option key down, click and drag this over here to make the A. Now this is kind of a stylized A, but if I want these points to be right on top of here, I'm going to click again the Direct Selection tool. I'm going to click on this point, and I'm going to drag it until it's on top of this line. And the same thing here. Now note also that when I'm dragging, I'm holding the Shift key down. If I don't hold the Shift key down, I could accidentally do that, and I don't want to do that. So I'm clicking on the point, holding the Shift key down, dragging it to the left. Notice how on this lowercase a, you can see a little bit of the circle over here. I'm going to show you one more tool and then I'm going to let you play with these. If I click and drag a rectangle around both of these, on the right hand side of your menu there's a tool called the Align tool. Notice that if I click, or if I just roll the mouse over without actually clicking on it, it tells me what the tool is called. So if you just hover or pause for a moment, it'll tell you what the name of the tool is. So I'm going to click on the Align tool. And again, there's a horizontal align. That will make the objects align like that. There's a left-hand alignment and a right-hand alignment. So now when I zoom in here, you can see that the A perfectly lines up. It's a little bit long here, so again I'm going to the direct selection tool, and I'm just going to click and drag this up until it looks like it's about even with that. Then I'm going to hit Command 0 to see the full screen. And before I get too far into this, remember that this is not named correctly. Here's how I want you to name it. File, Save As. On the left-hand side, click the desktop. I'm going to change parts by deleting it here. I'm going to put whatever my period number is, for example, period 1. And then please do not leave it as a student. Leave it with your first initial and your last name. And then save it. And click OK. I want you to build as much as the alphabet as possible. One other thing I want you to be conscious of is that these are still two separate pieces. If I want them to be one piece, I'm going to click and drag a rectangle around just this letter. I'm going to go up to the Object menu and select Group or Command G. Now when I move that letter around, it's one letter. So for today, all we're going to do is you're going to build as much of the alphabet as possible. If you want to make them smaller so they fit in here, that would be fine. All I did was I selected everything, which is already grouped. I moved my cursor over the corner, and as I'm clicking and dragging, I'm holding the Shift key down to reduce it down. Please build as much of these as you can, or as many of these as you can. One more time, this is still separate pieces, so I'm going to click a rectangle around this one, Object, Group. You have to be careful where you grab these things, because if you grab them in the wrong place, it's going to stretch it instead of moving it. So one more example. Holding the Option key down while I'm dragging it over here. I'm going to do a lowercase b. So in this case, I'm going to drag the circle, Option key, click and drag it over here. I want them aligned properly. So I'm going to click on the left-hand alignment. And this is too big, so I'm just going to click on this circle, hold the Shift key down, and drag it down so it's about the same as that one. I'm moving up the circle with the cursor keys on your keyboard. Those are the arrow keys. And then once I'm satisfied with it, I'm just going to hit Command S to save it. I'm going to click and drag a rectangle around the whole thing and group it by doing Command G. Also, since I want to do the upper and the lower case, I'm going to move it over a little bit. Click on this, Option, drag it over here. And these ones are a little trickier, but you can actually create the entire B with any of these shapes. I broke up this circle into multiple different shapes. So I'm just going to drag this one over here and put it up here. Hold the Option key down and drag it up here. I'm going to reduce it down so that it fits. Then I'm going to just keep adding to the pieces. Oops, I'm missing a piece. I need the one that's flipped the other way, so I'm going to go ahead and click the Reflect tool and click OK. You can also use the Reflect tool here if you want to. Since I want to complete this circle, I can put my cursor right here at the bottom, hold the Option key down, tell it to flip on the horizontal axis, and copy it. Since this isn't going to fit, I can reduce it now, or if I hold and select these two things here, I can just stretch it this way. Now here's another place where you can use the option tool. If I select these two and group them, Command G, hold the option key down, and as I'm dragging, hold the shift key down. Now I have the B. It's not a very pretty looking B, but it works. So today all I want you to do is work on creating an alphabet, the entire alphabet. Now as I'm thinking about it, rather than calling this logo, let's change the file name to save as, and we're going to call it alphabet _ first initial last name, and save. And OK. When you're done with this, make sure to upload it to your Google Drive and also upload it to Google Classroom. This will probably take you a couple of days. In the next video, I'll show you how to add these things behind them and fill them in so that they look like different types of logos. And I'll show you a variety of those.